All right, we got two people. That's enough. Let's chit chat. Amber and the Desire Body. So I used to watch this show named Fringe. Used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it's still on there or not. And in some of the episodes, they talked about this. They had this type of, I don't know what you would call it. It's like an area or material area slash material that people would get stuck in between two worlds, and they called it amber. Okay, interesting. It's also interesting that we have something called amber alerts. Very interesting. It's also interesting that the sacral chakra is associated with the color amber. Okay, and amber, and this amber colored chakra sits below the navel and above the pubic bone. Okay. Now if you go back to old Bobby Hemmett videos, the soul is this seed that sits deep inside of the belly or the stomach or the gut, okay? Which would coincide with this area. It's also interesting that several organs, including the stomach, have something inside of them called the lumen. You know, lumen as in illuminate, as in light. Okay. What else did I want to add just for background on that? I talked about the chakra, I talked about the color, I talked about, oh, so we have something going on in the Dallas area that is local, regional, national, and world news. The Amber Geiger trial. Okay? And this is where I want to go with the conversation. As we've titled this, Amber and the Desire Body. When you get, I often mention, damn, this lane gonna run out. I often mention, well, you know, like when you're getting books, like, I don't often mention, but I recently mentioned, that's a better term to use. Tell this lady, thank you for letting me over. I talked about how it's important, if you're going to get books, not to dismiss currently written books, but if you want to get a good base, meaning you want to go back and get less filtered information, then you want to buy books from a time when people who look like you and I were more overtly oppressed. So you got to understand the connection here. Not just people who look like you and I, but people who don't look like you and I. These, when we talk about 19th century, which is the 1800s, world literacy, you got to understand this, was not at a high rate. The whole concept of the United States, even by itself as a so-called first world country being literate, is a recent phenomenon. World literacy is not a commonality, okay? So the reason you like to get books from, let's just say 70 years and back, why they're great for a base, is because you had certain so-called elite members of society who were writing and figuring that people who not on that level won't even know this exists, and then more than likely they won't even be able to read it. Okay? The more a society becomes literate, the more it has to be censored and filtered, which is why censorship is at an all-time high. Believe it or not, it is at a crescendo because you have a more literate society, and the society has greater access to all types of information. Some garbage, some good. It's just a endless supply. So you got to have different filters in place. Okay. All right. In these old books, they'll bring up things called root race. They'll talk about savages, heathens. I ain't about to sit in this traffic. Nope. What's another term they'll use? Even just Lemurians, Atlanteans. What are some of the other terms they'll use? It'll come to me. Some of the other things will come to me. But what I'm trying to say is you need to know how to find yourself in these books. Because although they didn't intend for this to be available to the masses, they still wrote neophyte. That's another good one. That's another good one. Or the uninitiated. That's another one. They here we go. The desire body. That's the whole damn title. Ass. The desire body. Okay. So I brought some because I thought I was gonna be able to read while I was at the barbershop. Okay, what you gotta understand is that when you're studying people, you're not just gonna come out and spell everything out though. You always gotta be careful that it might fall into the wrong hands. So certain things you do have to keep shrouded in certain types of language. So I can't get to it right now, but this I mentioned this book. It's called Occult Anatomy and the Bible. Okay? And it's by Corrine Helene. Now just to give you some backdrop, Corrine Helene, this book was published, I want to say in the 1930s. Okay? Or 40s, somewhere around there. Now she was a student of a Rosicrucian named Max Heindel. Okay? And Heindel would be a contemporary of Rudolf Steiner. Okay, so this is to give you a backdrop of where this is coming from. She talks about something called the desire body. And the desire body, she says in her book, and a lot of other the Rosicrucian books talk about it in different ways, that it existed before individual intellect. Okay? Now the desire body would, me connecting the dots on my own, kind of reading through this, is that the desire body would connect on the outside, because the desire body is another name for your astral body. Okay? And this is supposed to be what surrounds your actual physical structure, is a desire body. Okay? And she says that it gained in power and strength, phenomenal power and strength the human intellect even developed. So there's been this, not rift, but there's been this somewhat contention between primal urges and desires and actual intellect since our conception, or at least the conception of modern man. Okay. As above, so below, as within, so without. If there is something outside that resonates in a certain way, there has to be something that mirrors it on the inside. That would be your hormones. And my theory is that that's why the reason the Joker has all these different colors, because you because let's say a body is like these flashes of colors, which is an idea or a form of chaos, which is what the Joker is. Okay. All right, but that's off the subject. But what I'm saying is that I said this before, I'm gonna say it again. History, you don't study history vertically, meaning if you say the year 1865, first thing gonna come to mind is Emancipation Proclamation, and then if you're not careful, nothing else happened in 1865. Okay? If you say something that might have come to happen in 1850, your mind can get locked into that event, and that becomes the totality of 1850. But you have to be able to think on a horizontal plane when you consider each little encapsulation of time in history. So if I'm gonna look at let's just say 1840 something, I'm not just gonna look at, well, we were slaves, or this and that. I'm gonna look at, well, what was going on in the scientific world in 1840? What was going on in the medical world in 1840? And do I not think the worlds of science and theater and philosophy and medicine and slavery? Meaning, if I have a batch of free lab rats to work on, could I not try to expound on a scientific or medical idea that I have? So if some nut job in the 1840s who's a zookeeper goes and cuts off chicken testicles and put them on their back and to see what would happen, what type of mind do you have to say, I'm gonna cut off something's nuts and I'm gonna put it on its spine and I'm gonna see what happens? But do you know that's how testosterone was discovered? By cutting off a chicken's genitals and putting it on his back. Well, this is going on at the same time that there is the institution of slavery. So if it's discovered that later on that testosterone gives one the ability to have I'm just gonna say superhuman strength. Superhuman strength. And you will see where you get the template for your superhero movies. A person with an abundance of testosterone flowing is stronger. I know firsthand. So if you see these bucks, this big strong buck, you look at your genitalia, you look at his genitalia, you look at your natural musculature, you look at his musculature and her musculature, and you like, and then you find this correlation between this chicken's balls that was cut off, because what happened, this is how they found, look at this. This is how they found how testosterone works. I'm watching road rage right here. Just we live in a savage society. So if the chicken was ready to mate, just like it normally would when his nuts was put on his back, then now common sense, there's a sexual juice. They called hormones juices in the 1900s and the early 20th century. They were called juices, and then they went on to being called secretions. There's some juice located in these things that gives this chicken life. If I go and I've done this study and I'm studying these chattel that I have control over, I'm gonna put two and two together and I'm gonna start studying, and I'm gonna start noticing that when they get together at night and sing. We're sitting on the porch drinking mint julep iced tea, and we're sitting there watching them work for 12, 14, 16 hours. And my God, how do they stand up to this? Now, this all goes back to the desire body. Testosterone is what gives a man the ability to have an erection. But that signal that comes down for him to have the erection has to come from somewhere else. It starts from it's transferred from the mind, but the mind is working with something else called a desire body. This desire body is also the reason that you hear a time signature. That's for DAP right there. It got a good time signature. That's why you have this innate rhythm, your desire body. That's why you wear bright colors, your desire body. That's why you have a sense of humor, your desire body. Your desire body is like this antenna that touches something else in several different places. That's why all the different colors. It's all the touching God in all these different ways. But the same thing that makes you so special is your albatross. That's what they figured out. Your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. Amber. It sits below the navel and above the pelvic bone. Amber. And when you hear a good groove, and you talk about, I feel that in my soul. You feel it down somewhere around by amber. So leading up to this trial, now I gave you all that for this backdrop, and I know it jumps around, but that's just your backdrop. That's the setting. So we fast forward, we come up to this trial, okay? They've been pumping this thing up. It went, it happened, and then, it fizzled down, and then when it was time for the trial, they really ramped this thing up. You turn on your local news. Amber Guyger kills Botham Jean. National news. Amber Guyger kills Botham Jean. Your desire body gives you a connection not just to whatever surrounds us, but to each other. There's something you just cannot get around feeling when you hear about the murder of something that shares this human template that you do. You can't get around it because you are a feeling people. Okay? That is warfare. That's desire body warfare. That is the big show right now. Desire body warfare is the big show. What kind of reaction can I get out of you? Trump is a hormone president. All he does is pump fake. And he gets people enraged across the board by sending out certain messages. We're in the desire body era, and it's the last vestige of Pisces holding on. Because the Piscean age is about fear. It's about just reaction. It's about restriction. And we're supposed to be moving to the era of freedom. Free thought. Freedom of the soul. The soul has been chained down. It's supposed to be the lotus that is blooming. So let's trigger through the desire body fear. And the desire body is intimately connected to especially two organs, kidneys, liver. When you got to go back and reevaluate the story of Prometheus, who gets his liver torn out over and over. Desire. So they keep pumping this on the news about this trial, and that's you got these little things inside of you called hormones, which was talked about in a movie called The Minions. The Minions is a real story. It is a true mythological story that is real. They are looking for the most despicable master to control them. Despicable. The root spic, see, the prefix de means down, to see down the watchers, to look down. Kether, the crown, looks down at itself, Malkuth. It's the story of the root race. That's why the Minions, you'll look at the movie, and they're singing gospel. They ain't saying no words, but if you don't grew up in a black church, you never could understand the fucking words anyway. They mimicking, that's gospel music. They mimic R&B, they mimic soul. You gotta watch, the movie is heavy. The Minions. They're looking for a master. And so they say the desire body emerged first, and then individual intellect came to try to wrestle and to gain some type of, control's a bad word, but some type of mastery over this. The desire body is the potential. Where we get the word Lord, Adonai, Adonai from potency, potentate, pot, potential. Every color in the rainbows is potential. But if potential, how many of y'all know somebody you went to school with, and the Swintons, the McLeans? I remember Eric Swinton had a 44-inch vertical. He was with a 44-inch vertical, could jump out the gym. He could run. Didn't have nothing up here. Nobody. Home Alone. He was the template for the movie Home Alone. Nothing's there. Nobody there. No guardianship. So he had all this potential, amazing desire body that helped to form this amazing muscle chisel specimen who had no fucking brain. Just let that marinate. Everything was being played to the desire body. Everything is about the desire body to stimulate it as a projection of something that's substantive. And then stimulate it to become a weapon. Because if it correlates and connects directly to the organs, if you keep pushing out stress hormones, if you're playing a football game, your adrenaline is going to be high. You might sprain an ankle in the game and you can play through it. Your blood pressure is high, your core body temperature is high, your adrenaline is flowing, cortisol is flowing, and your parasympathetic nervous system is on fleek. Because you're in a fight or flight state right now. I don't know, I might have it mixed up, parasympathetic or sympathetic. One of them two. Okay? But when you get done with the game, you cool down. First, when all that sweat cools on you, cold as hell, you start feeling, now all of a sudden you start to feel the pain, like, oh man, my ankle, and I hit my knuckle on somebody's face mask, and oh man, I didn't even know my finger was bleeding. This shit hurt. You got knots on you because now all of those stress hormones have gone back. They have been utilized. Okay? The danger with the way the desire body is being stimulated now is that we often don't have anywhere to steer and funnel those juices or those secretions. So they then sit in the blood. Insulin sits in the blood. You're stressed out. Your body wants to, hey, we need sugar. We got to get on the way. You're stressed out. We might have to fight somebody. You need sugar. So your pancreas sends out insulin, and insulin funnels sugar where it needs to go. Well, if you're stressed out and sugar don't have nowhere to go, it sits in your bloodstream, becomes toxic. Adrenaline, and it also, so Amber, and it's funny because a Geiger machine, if I'm live, you can hear me, you can see me, and all that good stuff. Oh, well, hell, I'm just gonna talk. Fuck it. If it ain't on there, then it wasn't meant to be. Um, Geiger. Okay, good. Thank you. That has to do something with no, the seismograph measures earthquakes. There's something called a Geiger machine. I forgot what it measures. We have to go back and do a dive into that. But Amber, find her guilty. Still desire body, because now it's doing this, playing with you. You know, it's just like, okay, Obama's elected, desire body, you know, and then you come back and I'm sitting in the barbershop getting lined up, and it flashes across the screen that she gets 10 years. Next scene is a group of black women at the mic, and the sound is down, but I'm just looking at their faces. I know that they giving them down the road, that this is injustice, and that this is she took her life. I could just imagine what all they're saying. That is by design. Desire body. By design. It's almost like you gotta you can't just turn off the world and just be like, oh, I ain't paying attention to nothing, because you'd be a fool just to do that. But on the same line, along the same line, you cannot really hold court on a whole lot of this stuff. I got a cousin, 41 years old, they just buried. 41 years old. We've gone through slavery, Jim Crow, and civil, whatever you want to pick an era. But it's always been unheard of for a parent to bury their child. That is becoming the norm. I got 3 instances in my family where a parent buried the child. And if you sit and look at your family, I'm sure many of you can see the same thing developing, a pattern, where you almost becoming desensitized to a person not living a so-called full life. Desire body. Desire body. So Amber's only is going to get 10 years. Something else I wanted to say. Damn. This is what happens when you're freestyling. But anyway, I guess the ultimate takeaway is, and it's nothing new. I've said it before, but there is no one way to accomplish this. But it's just like food. I was talking to my wife about, we listened to this show called A Model Health Show, and they was talking about how if you just follow one eating plan, your body can start to stall out and not have results, which is true. So the basic takeaway then is that no matter what type of eating plan you come across, you know what it ultimately boils down to, what the real science, and I especially learned this from bodybuilding, is you have to learn what works for you. You have to learn what works for you. And when we would diet for shows, you know, your body becomes so sensitive to everything. We there's a dude we know who was going to what we call nationals. When you're trying to go get your pro card in bodybuilding, you go to nationals, and that's where all the biggest people in the nation, and sometimes people from around the world, come to the U.S. to try to get their pro card. This guy finished third in his weight class because of his fucking wife. Herman told us, he said, I sat there with Steve, and he said the boy was winning he was killing Evan Centopani, was the Italian dude's name who beat him that year. And he said Steve's wife came back there and said something to that nigga. He said, I sat there and watched Steve's body change from first place to third place. Before he got on stage, I watched his body. He said, I saw the cortisol. Because when you got to understand, when you diet for a show, you're down to like 5 to 8% body fat. So that means if you fart, you can see your ass contracting to push the shit flatulence out. That's how lean you are. It's like the last time I dieted for a show, I was sitting on a metal bench and my ass bone, my tailbone started hurting because I didn't have enough meat back there. You get so lean to where when you're chewing, the muscles are so tight in your face. It's some of the worst shit you can ever go through. It's a form of torture, real rap, and many people can't do it. So it's not far-fetched for a person to be that lean and to look at them, and you can literally see the hormones affecting their physical structure, because you can see the water. When water gets on top of muscle, it creates a little skim, you know. And what we do when you diet, you dehydrate yourself leading up to the show, and it pulls the water out the skin, and your water and the skin fits around the muscle like it's been shrink wrapped. That's called being dialed in. So when he looked at him, he could see the shit happening. This boy is about to lose, because this idiot then came back in and done fucking with him. And it's funny, she's a cop. Either way, he lost. So what I'm trying to say is, that was a direct example of literally seeing hormones at work. Well, most of us ain't walking around like that, so we're not really cognizant of how we're being. It can alter you. So however you got to figure it out, because people will get locked up in arguments about, should you be a vegan, should you not, you know, should I weight train this way, should I do this, should I do keto, should I blah blah blah. Let me say something. The most dangerous thing to be right now is just fucking stupid. That's what, long as you're not stupid and you do some form of research into whatever you're doing, and you become a scientist and you track the results of what you're doing, you be an alert, awake, aware, so-called conscious person, meaning you pay attention. I notice when I ate this, my ankles swell up. I probably don't need to mess with that. I notice that when I get on this binge of eating sugar, you know, my sex drive is a little lower. You know what I'm saying? You got to pay attention. It's too much information. Look, being locked into one philosophy or one group is something that's necessary when there is limited information. There is too much available to all of us now to learn for you and I to just sit back helplessly and don't do nothing or take no charge of your existence, and to fall into a cult mentality of, well, if Jim Jones didn't say this, then I don't know about that. You can't be it's imperative to not be stupid right now. It's imperative. Because the game is on another level. It's on another level. That's just a public service announcement. It's not saying I got it figured out, but let me tell you this. I know enough to know to pay attention. You know, you can, if you really start paying attention, you'll know, like, I'm getting too dehydrated. My piss is yellow, you know, just little simple things, you know. Get up and look at your stool. Don't take a dump and just assume that everything. Get up and look at your shit. And then learn how to grade your shit. Don't you know when you're full of anxiety, your shit is different? When you're calm, when you're dehydrated, when you have not eaten enough vitamin K, when you haven't, you know what I'm saying? When you've eaten too much protein, look at your shit. That's what it's coming down to. Each of us has to learn just how to study ourselves. We use this there's this real nerdy guy who writes these books on keto plans, you know, diet and this and that. And he got good information. But then he starts telling that bullshit right there, I throw that out the window. Because I know I've trained long enough and done enough food and stuff. I know how things affect me. I know that the keto type of eating works well for me. So I give him kudos because he gives you a lot of science about leptin and ghrelin and adrenal receptors and lipid receptors, and I mean breaks it all down, gives you sources. But I know when I go to the gym and train, I can't go in and just pick up the heaviest damn weight and just start. I got to do high reps, get my joints warmed up. I'm not a short person, so I got long limbs. I can't just go getting up on the weight. I got it. So I throw out the garbage. So see what I'm saying? You got to know how to eat the fish and spit out the bones. Oh, what is he on here talking about bodybuilding for? I thought you was dealing with some deep. It is deep. It is deep. Everything's connected. So let me tell you what happens sometimes. People who don't know nothing else sometimes try to shit on stuff that they don't understand because dumb, you ain't studied enough. And they'll try to poo-poo on it and say, oh, this is low-level stuff. No, check this out. Nothing's low-level. Everything's connected. Everything is everything. That's called mastery. Mastery is when you see everything flowing in and out, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is not just shit coming out my ass. This is this is a report of where I am in my life right now. Literally, when you take a shit, it's an up-to-date report of where you are right now. It's data. That's why you can't turn your nose up at anything at this particular time and dismiss nothing. Don't dismiss nothing. Because all this bullshit we talking now, we fucking 150 years behind. Know that. That's why you go and get these old books and you say like, all that. Oh, they was talking about this in 1850. So go ahead and be stupid and just dismiss things. You know, go ahead and be that. But for those who have ears to hear, hey, what my man in New York say? My man Shabazz, he say, a word to the wise is sufficient. And I know he's not the author of that saying, but I heard him say it. A word to the wise is sufficient. Get your ass up. Quit sitting around looking at fucking YouTube videos that's telling you that the sky is falling. It's like that's a contradiction. Well, Jamal, you just sat here and told. No, I'm telling you why you need to get. I said all this to set the stage for why each of you, if you're not, whomever this is for, if you're not, get your motherfucking ass up and get to moving. If water does not move, and we live in water, we come out of water, and water's all in us. If water don't move, water becomes stagnant. When you talk about hormones or blood, you're merely talking about different states of water. In the beginning was water. And if you don't move it, it becomes stagnant. It takes on toxins. That's why mosquitoes are attracted to stagnant water. And mosquitoes are parasites. Parasites are attracted to stagnant water. And you let that shit marinate. All right. Peace to everybody. Be in the world and not of the world. Romans 12:2. Not on no religious nothing. That's some heavy, very poignant scripture. So thank all y'all for tuning in. We're gonna wrap this up. Peace to everybody. Stay down till you get up. When you get up, stay down. Peace.